Hallöchen, Freunde, und willkommen zu diesem neuen Video. Ja, Vroni hat es mal wieder geschafft, ein Video aufzunehmen. Oh mein Gott, Weltwunder ist geschehen. Seitdem ich, glaube ich, fast 2 Wochen nur, wenn überhaupt, gestreamt habe, haben wir mal wieder ein Video und wir machen heute ja, Kavehs Einladungsereignis, an dem wir jetzt, ich weiß nicht, wie lange schon dran rumwurschteln, aber wir machen das jetzt fertig. Und wenn ich sage, wir machen das fertig, dann machen wir das fertig. Ist mir scheißegal, wie lange das dauert. Ich glaube, wir haben noch 2 Ausgänge. Oder 3? 2 Ausgänge haben wir, glaube ich, noch. Und die werden heute beide gemacht. Es wird irgendwie langsam anstrengend. Weil ich habe halt auch irgendwie keine Zeit. Könnte jetzt auch zum Beispiel Besseres tun, wie zum Beispiel für VIP morgen lernen. Also, morgen ist Dienstag, by the way. Also, heute ist Montag. Also, nicht verwechseln, aber ja, egal. Ich bin hier und mach das jetzt einfach mal. Ich weiß gar nicht, wo wir hier stehen geblieben sind. Ach, das war das mit dem. Okay, warte, hier sind wir dann, glaube ich, wie gesagt, mit dem. Bruder, ich bringe keinen Satz mehr zusammen. Wir haben Kaveh gesagt, er soll sich nochmal mit seinen Klienten auseinandersetzen. Und er will, genau, diese Bibliothek bauen. Und da sind wir jetzt, ich weiß nicht mehr wo. Keine Ahnung. Bei welcher Stelle wir da wieder stehen geblieben, aber stehen geblieben sind. Mach ganze Sätze, Vroni. Aber gut. Gut. Wir sind jetzt irgendwie dorthin durch. Watscheln. Und dann mit dem Typen dann nochmal reden. Ich weiß aber nicht mehr ganz genau, was es da für Auswahlmöglichkeiten gab und wie viel man das hätte anders machen können. I don't know. I don't remember.
We meet again.
Huh? Why are you guys here?
That's what we wanted to ask you. Who are you? Why did you dress up like a merchant to talk to me about our project? There's no need for us to continue this project if you still want to keep hiding things from us. I don't work with individuals I can't trust.
Believe me, I didn't have any bad intentions. It's just... All right, there's no point hiding anything anymore. The building I'm trying to commission you for is not really a personal residence for me, but rather a library for children living in the desert.
A library? Funded entirely by yourself? Shouldn't this be the responsibility of the academia? I've heard that the academia will be looking to prioritize the desert with the allocation of educational resources and materials. It sent over a large shipment of regular goods just last month.
You're right, and I was aware of these happenings as well. I just figured what I want to do is a separate effort from what's already being done by the academia. The desert is too vast. Even if the academia spends a lot of effort trying to disseminate knowledge in those parts, it might still take decades, if not centuries, to reduce the educational gap that already exists between the two regions. And what's more, I don't know if the academia would ever reverse its stance in the future. All I know is that as a desert dweller, we should not wait passively for good things to happen to us. If we only did that, we'd never be able to stand up and hold our heads high. I don't have much longer left on this world, so I just want to use whatever time I have to contribute something to my homeland.
Und warum hast du uns deswegen angelogen?
I didn't want you to know that I came from the desert. I've lived in the desert my entire life, and there wasn't anyone here that I could trust. I figured I needed as much safety as I could get.
To the point that you even disguised your identity? That's certainly taking playing it safe to the next level. Hold on. Don't tell me you've also been scammed before.
When I first came to Sumeru City, I brought a lot of Mora, hoping to find an architect that I could work with. Someone agreed to take on the project, and even took a sum of Mora from me, but then disappeared without a trace. After that, I heard that there are a lot of untrustworthy people in this business. Some would run as soon as they've been paid, while others would deliberately use expensive materials and take a cut of the construction funding. I spent a while collecting information in the city, and eventually learned that you're the most famous architect in all of Sumeru. I figured that you wouldn't need to make Mora by scamming people, so I decided to reach out to you. By the way, how did you know I was scammed? I don't think I've ever mentioned that to anybody.
Just a hunch. A while ago, I accepted an offer to work on a project in the desert, and was also scammed out of a large sum of Mora. I ran into someone who was living in a pretty run-down house. I noticed a load-bearing wall on the verge of collapse, and suggested that I build a new house for him. He said that he had no way to pay for it, so I loaned him some of my own Mora, and told him to get some stone and timber from the local vendors. Soon after that, I found out that he had gone gambling with all the money, and lost everything, down to the last coin. And after that, he even borrowed Mora from me twice more, using a different excuse each time. I didn't even suspect him of any wrongdoing until he hired a group of mercenaries and tried to ambush me in his own house. According to him, I looked like an easy target because I was an academia scholar who didn't have any family or friends in the desert. What kind of person would just look at someone else and think, this guy looks like an easy target?
Those kinds of things do happen every once in a while, yes. Folks like him are the exact reason why us desert dwellers' reputation have gone down the drain. I must apologize to you on their behalf.
It's all right. You were also scammed by someone from Kasharwar, after all. I should apologize to you on their behalf. Ultimately, neither of our experiences had anything to do with the desert or the rainforest. People who are new to an area are always easy targets for criminals.
Schlechte Menschen findest du überall.
Yeah, you'll
Leider.
find both good and bad people everywhere.
Nope.
I can't understand the logic of those who like to take advantage of others, but I have to accept their existence as a fact of life.
Warum? Können wir sie nicht einfach alle wegsperren? Nee, leider nicht, sind zu viele. Wär schön.
Anyway, I digress. Let's return to the topic at hand. Did you keep rejecting my designs because you thought I was deliberately using expensive materials to take a cut as a middleman?
That's what I was afraid of initially, yes. I eventually understood that you weren't out to cheat me. But unfortunately, I still don't have nearly enough Mora to pay for the design you proposed. I've done the math and know that we should be able to make it if we cut some corners. However, after our conversations, I can see that you're passionate about your design, and I'm quite fond of the proposal as well. So, I decided to try and see if I can afford your proposal as is. I've been looking for work every day, and in another month, I should be able to cobble together enough Mora to meet the budget.
By cobble together, you mean you're going to spend your entire life savings on this project? But then, what will you do if something unexpected comes up, and you find yourself stuck with no emergency fund?
To be honest, I haven't really thought about that. I mean, when you've lived to be my age and something happens, you can't really call it unexpected anymore. All I want is to build this library before I leave this world, so that the children of the future would have some books to read, and the desert dwellers would be able to learn their letters and pick up some practical knowledge.
Dieses Projekt sehr ernst, hm?
A while ago, I heard that the academia had decided to recruit a number of exceptional children from the desert. Of course, this is welcomed news. But as someone who's spent their entire life in the desert, I still have a few concerns. I know the desert life and can predict what the problems will be. Many children from the desert have had neither the interest nor the proper environment to learn. So even if the academia would take them in, once they enter the halls, they might find themselves surrounded by other children who look and act very differently from them. And as a result, they might become socially isolated.
Yes, I can imagine that. My father passed away at an early age. Even though I had a good number of friends during my years at the academia, for some time I still sensed many critical looks in my direction. I'm sure a child coming all the way from the desert will have an even harder time. But let's bring this back to the building itself. I think you said that you want this building to be quiet and warm, with its doors serving as a solid barrier to block out the sound and fury outside, and allow one to focus on the book in their hands. Building it according to the current plan will be quite costly. Even if I don't charge you any commission fees, I don't think we'd be able to keep it under your budget. Any ideas on what we can do?
Wie wär's mit einem anderen Baustil? Vielleicht, keine Ahnung. Gibt's einen Baustil, der irgendwie billiger ist?
A slightly different style. Give me a minute. Most architects would probably prioritize cutting costs and removing extra features in this situation. Indeed, converting the building into a simple bungalow would solve most of our problems. However, I do not think this would be the best solution. While it's true that the aesthetic value of a building is often viewed as an afterthought, neglecting it has some long-term negative consequences. It is especially undesirable in this situation, as the library will serve a high number of children, many of whom would have never been exposed to structures that may be considered elegant or beautiful. To completely give up on the more aesthetic design would mean stripping the children of an opportunity to appreciate the beauty of architecture. I share Badawi's sentiments in wanting to preserve a more complex design. However, if we can reduce the ornate aspects of the design while maintaining its fundamental elegance, which is to say we won't touch the arches and stone pillars but make changes elsewhere, this is definitely a first. To make up for the loss of regular details, we would need to put a lot of extra effort into the layout, lines, and color.
I see. Would that really be okay?
It just increases the difficulty of the design. You should feel lucky that out of all the architects in the city, you chose to approach me. Most of the others would have given up on this project by now.
Musste ich dich nicht davon überzeugen, an diesem Projekt weiterzuarbeiten?
As for inspiration, I think I might have something in mind, but I'd need to visit the site to make sure. Where do you want this place to be built? Tell me the exact location.
Aru Village. Although it wasn't my childhood home, I think it'll be the best site for such a building.
Okay, then we can pay a visit to Aru Village.
Is there something I can do for you? I've already caused you a lot of trouble before, and now you're revising the design again because of me. Which draft are we even on now? It's making me feel terribly guilty.
Let me think. You said you used to be an Eremite mercenary, right? In that case, you could help us clear out some monsters that are blocking the way to Aru Village. We want to keep the roads clear, and reduce the loss of materials during transport to a minimum. If everything goes well, that'll help us save some Mora.
All right, just leave it to me. If there's anything I'm good at, it's clearing out monsters.
Ja,
What
ist
are
doch
you waiting
wunderbar.
for then? Let's pack up and get ready to go.
Auf. Yeah. Auf. Vielleicht wird es ja doch noch was mit der Bibliothek. Und irgendwie billig und schön. Wobei, billig ist ja eigentlich auch nicht immer gut, ne?
Too slow.
Ich nehme mich mit. Ich brauche die zwar nicht, aber ich nehme mich mit. Ich muss irgendwie immer alles mitnehmen. Okay.
Most materials going from Caravan Ribat to Aru Village would pass through here. There are a lot of monsters out here today. If you find it hard to keep up, just let us know.
Oh, don't worry about me. This is nothing. I'll be careful, though, and you should do the same.
Ja, ja.
Come at me!
Squall and Fury.
Nur ein paar kleine Pilze. Kein großes Ding.
How amusing.
Ja gut, das ist auch ein großer Pilz. Ist aber trotzdem noch ein großes Ding.
Burst forth.
Ich wollte eigentlich...
So rude.
Scanning.
The wind rises.
Wunderbar. War jetzt nicht so schwer. Bist du verletzt?
I'm fine. I've spent my entire life fighting these kinds of monsters in the desert, after all. They won't get the best of me. But it's one thing to fight against monsters, and another to fight against an old injury. It's something I picked up when I was young. There were many fights between mercenary brigades back then, and one day someone stabbed me in the back. I don't think much of it back then, but with age, it's caught up to me. Few mercenaries get to enjoy their later years. Failing health tends to take the joy out of reputation and wealth, and many mercenaries never even made much of the latter to begin with.
Is there someone you know who can help to look after you?
Unfortunately, no. My wife passed away at an early age, and I don't have any children. Sometimes I'd close my eyes and realize most of my life story has already been written. I have many regrets about my past, but at the same time I also know that there were never many options for me in the first place. I joined the Eremites when I was young, and won many battles with them. My survival was more a matter of luck than actual ability. If at all possible, I want future children of the desert to have some more options in life. I don't want them to turn out like me. My apologies. The older we get, the more we tend to ramble. Seems like we've already cleared out most of the monsters. Let's hurry over to Aru village.
Was ist los, ne? Was denkst du?
I think it's really admirable of him to spend his whole life's savings on people he's never met. Maybe he's doing this out of natural kindness. A kindness that hasn't been eroded away by the struggles of his life.
Klingt doch nach dir, oder nicht?
Perhaps. To clarify, though, I don't think I'm quite the same.
Nee, das dann auch
Some
wieder
people
nicht.
call me an idealist. I do have some sentiments of that general persuasion, such as wanting everyone to be able to lead a happy life. But my situation is more complex than that. In the beginning, what drove me to harbor those thoughts was less idealism and more a desire to make up for a sense of guilt. When I was young, I impulsively encouraged my father to take part in the first Inter-Darshan Championship hosted by the Academia. He set off confidently hoping to win something for me, but failed to clinch the title. What's more, he fell into depression after the competition and requested to join an investigative research project in the desert. I never saw him again. Word has it that he got caught in quicksand. Even if other factors may have contributed to his death, the fundamental cause still circles back to me.
So ein Quatsch. Was laberst du denn? Nur weil er jetzt... Der hat einen Auftrag in der Wüste angenommen. Punkt. Niemand weiß, was passiert ist. Was redest du?
I started doing many things in life because I wanted to make amends. Even in cases where I couldn't do something for a specific person, I still did whatever I could. I think I just wanted to make myself feel a little better.
Ja, und jetzt?
At this point, even I don't know.
Na, wunderbar.
I've tried self-reflection, but it didn't help. I can't seem to walk away from many things that I see or hear about, even if they don't directly concern me. And I can't quite pinpoint the source of it. Maybe it's just like what those Vahumana scholars often say. It's hard for people to truly understand themselves. I could be doing things out of endless guilt, or I could be doing them out of a strong sense of empathy. It could even just be a matter of conceit. The potential motivations could number in the dozens, but the actions they result in are the same. Anyway, I suppose I don't really mind being called an idealist. They also used that term to describe my father. It seemed to carry fewer connotations back when he was around. I've known Al-Haytham for many years now, and discussed my ideology with him for nearly as long. Maybe argued is a better word for it.
Ja, bisschen traurig eigentlich. Eigentlich, glaube ich, haben die zwei sich mal gut verstanden, aber irgendwann haben sie angefangen zu streiten. Leider. Aber sagen wir so, sie mögen sich noch gut genug, beziehungsweise helfen mag Kaveh noch so sehr, dass er ihn noch bei ihnen wohnen lässt. Das ist doch auch noch eine gute Sache.
He told me a long time ago that no matter how strong of a swimmer you may be, you'll still get dragged under by the others who are drowning once you run out of stamina. He believes this is the fate that awaits all idealists. I still believe I should live by my ideals, and I've given him countless reasons why I think it's a good idea to do so. Perhaps my ideals are flawed, but are there really any perfect things in this world?
Nee. Nee, eigentlich nicht.
Unfortunately, he remains unconvinced. His personality is the exact opposite of my own. If someone happens to drown next to him, he'll most likely stand on the shore and mumble something along the lines of respecting other people's fates. But as you can see, I'm not the only idealist in the world. Just as
Nein.
there are different seasons, there are also different people.
Natürlich.
There are many others who will continue to care about the fates of those who are not directly related to them. And when I finally run out of stamina, someone will also reach out and bring me back to shore. Someone will help me, right? Yes, I've already been helped like that before.
Ach ja? Ich werde dir dann helfen, okay?
But you've helped me plenty already. If you didn't reach out to me, I would probably be passed out on the tavern table right now instead of talking with Badawi.
Vielleicht.
Either way, I'm feeling much better than when you first found me at the tavern. I can feel inspiration already welling up inside of me. Maybe this will be just the opportunity I needed to create a whole new style.
Ja, komm.
Alright,
Das ist
let's head
das,
to
was
our
ich hören
village.
will. Auf. Wir haben schon genug Zeit bequatscht und verplempert. Auf ins Dorf und entwirf etwas völlig Neues. Vielleicht kannst du ja Mary damit ins Stauben bringen. Wo genau müssen wir hin?
Now that we're here, it's my partner's time to shine. Marak!
Ah, Marak. Der süßeste Koffer in ganz Meru. Beziehungsweise ganz Thematik. Ich glaube, es gibt keinen Koffer, der süßer ist als Marak.
Oh, what's this?
Marak ist ein Koffer.
My
ich weiß nicht, was er
toolbox.
macht.
I built it using an ancient mechanical core. It's not too smart, but it's super useful and can help me with a variety of tasks.
Das ist nicht der hellste. Passt ja doch gut zusammen. Okay, das war gemeint. Tut mir leid.
I'll take Marak and find a suitable location for the building. Once that is done, I'll get to work on a few designs.
Ja, was ist, wenn die Fläche schon verkauft ist?
Traveler?
Oh, Setaria.
Ah, you know each other?
Oh ja.
Hello. I suppose you must be Kaveh from Kasharwar. I've heard of you before. My name is Setaria, and I'm currently the person in charge of promoting educational assistance programs here in the desert.
Educational assistance programs. Then you must be familiar with the local conditions here.
I can't say I'm too familiar just yet, but if you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer them.
I've been commissioned by Mr. Badawi to build a library in the desert. We've settled on the general design direction, but we are trying to finalize some details based on the conditions around the intended location.
A library? Do you intend to open it to the public for free?
That's right. I want to make sure the children will have books to read.
That's fantastic! I'm sure the children will be thrilled. Right now, we don't have access to many paper books or a quiet place to read. Truth be told, this very thing has been keeping me up at night.
Let me get straight to my questions then. Can you estimate the number of children around here who'd be interested in reading? Besides the usual noise of village pedestrians, are there any other sources of noise in the village? Oh, and have any landslides occurred here recently? And also, where are the spots around the village that have been most affected by wind and erosion?
Oh, langsam. Mal eine Frage nach der anderen. Die Arme kann sich doch nicht alles merken. Und?
All right. That should be everything.
Ja?
Badawi, let's go over the budget again. We'll keep the building structure the same, but make the place a little bigger, so it'll be able to hold more people and get better natural light.
Ja, und wo willst du das Geld hernehmen?
The parts of the project that cost the most will be the insulation and ventilation materials. I'm sure you understand, no one likes to read in a place that's hot and stuffy. I want to make significant changes to the arrangement of the bookshelves, tables, and chairs. I'll go over the specifics of that shortly. I have 2 plans in mind. Both are pretty minimalist in style, but will provide a very different ambiance from the world outside. Our final cost should be around 70% of the last figure I quoted. The whole thing should take around half a year to complete. Marak has produced a sketch for all of you to see. If everyone's okay with it, then we'll proceed with that as the formal plan.
Hast du schon was Neues gezeichnet?
The inspiration just came to me naturally. All I did was put thoughts to paper.
Wann?
I must give you credit, though. If it weren't for your advice and suggestions, I probably wouldn't have landed on this new style so quickly.
Bin halt einfach toll.
According to the traditions of my profession, I should probably name this style after you. Let's call it the Traveler style.
Oh mein Gott, sweet. Oh, wow, das ist sogar eine Bauart.
In the meantime, let's look forward to the day when this building is completed and can finally open its doors.
Oh mein Gott, das wäre so schön, wenn wir... Es wär eigentlich wirklich schön, wenn wir irgendwann mal einen zweiten Teil von seiner Einladungsreise haben und dort dann aufgestellt wird, so richtig oder so. Aber das wäre schon nice, oder? Wenn man dann wirklich die Bibliothek irgendwann wirklich stehen würde. Blaupause der Zukunft. Verglichen damit anderen Erwartungen für die Zukunft zu schenken, ist das Leiden der Gegenwart nicht der Rede wert. Ach, wie nett. Ach, wie süß ist das denn bitte? Oh mein Gott. Okay, sweet, sweet, sweet. Aber wir machen das heute natürlich fertig, wie ich gesagt habe. Okay. Ach, Mann, wie cute. Aber ich würde mich wirklich freuen, wenn es wirklich eines Tages wirklich so richtig fertiggestellt worden würde. Dass man es wirklich besuchen kann. Das wäre ein schönes Ding. Glaubt ja nicht, dass es passiert oder so. Weil da muss man halt irgendwie schon viel Neues wieder machen. Also zumindest viel für so ein kleines Einladungsereignis. Aber es wäre schon eine schöne Vorstellung. Okay, was machen wir jetzt? Genau, das war jetzt irgendwas wieder mit seiner Mom und ich glaube, stimmt, ich glaube, Kaveh geht jetzt nach Hause, um in der Box in seiner Mom rumzukramen. Glaube ich, da war irgendwas. Das war das erste, was wir gemacht haben, das ist schon so lange her, da weiß ich nicht mehr genau.
Al-Haytham isn't in, so feel free to sit wherever. I'll bring out the box.
Alles in Ordnung?
Oh, nothing. I just didn't realize how much time had passed. The box is pretty dusty, which means it's already been a while since I've moved into this place. And many years since my mother moved to Fontaine.
Glaubt ihr, wir können Kavehs Mutter in Fontaine mal begegnen? Ich würde das auf jeden Fall sehr schön finden. Wenn wir mal über den Weg laufen würden und erzählen könnten, was ihr Sohn schon so alles geschafft haben. Weil seitdem sie ja weggezogen ist nach Fontaine, haben sie ja zwei ja irgendwie nie wieder miteinander geredet, was schon so ein bisschen traurig ist.
I'm happy for her. I hope she'll be able to find happiness there. She raised me all by herself after my father passed away. It definitely wasn't easy for her. Anyway, enough about that. Let's see what I packed into this box. What are all these things?
Ist das eine Zeichnung?
Oh, I remember now. This is a drawing I made in Port Ormos. Obviously, I wouldn't call it anything special now, but I was less than 5 years old when I made this drawing. That's more than 20 years ago. You could say it's pretty good for a child of that age. Now that I've said that out loud, I suppose I do have some level of artistic talent, right?
Warum fragst du sowas?
Criticism and self-doubt have always been a part of the artistic process. Without criticism, there can be no improvement. It's normal for me to question my abilities from time to time. I admit that I may have spent a little too long questioning myself this time around, but as you know, the heart tends to dwell on whatever it pleases. Anyway, never mind. The more I talk about it, the less confident I feel. Let's see what else we have in the box.
Nein.
Ah, my building blocks! It's been years since I've last seen these. When I was a kid, I used to stack them super high, and could even stabilize the tower to keep it from tumbling over. Oh, and this blueprint. I made it by copying my mother's sketch, and the aspect ratio was horrendous. It's still technically the first blueprint I made myself, though. I was super proud of myself when I finished it, and put it in the same pile as my mother's sketches, hoping she'd notice and compliment me for my good work. Unfortunately, my mother didn't realize that I had put it there. When she had a meeting with a client the next day, she handed my blueprint to him by mistake. The client was completely confused by this new blueprint, but apparently he felt too tongue-tied to question such a famous architect. It was only a few days later that he finally gathered up the courage to pay my mother a visit. He asked, "The door in this blueprint is even taller than the roof. Is this supposed to be part of the design?"
Und dann?
My mother took me with her to personally apologize to the client several times. She didn't scold me about it in private, though. Instead, she went over all the steps required to draw a good blueprint, and was very patient throughout the whole process. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Let's see, is there anything else left in this box? Huh. What was this again?
Notizbuch mit dem Schloss?
Ah, this is my mother's notebook. She used to write and sketch in it all the time. When I was a child, I used to be super fascinated by this notebook, and always pestered my mother to let me read it. After asking her a few times, she told me that I could read it as long as I could guess the password. Huh. Wonder why she didn't take this notebook with her. Did she leave it to me on purpose?
Schau doch mal rein.
If only I could. I never managed to guess the password.
Über so viele Jahre nicht?
Hey, it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of inspiration. That's what we need to guess the password. Who knows? Maybe this time something will click in my head, and the answer will just present itself. Let me think. What could it be?
Dein Name?
I could tell what you were thinking. Don't worry, I tried all the easy guesses a long time ago. I've tried my name, my father's name, my mother's name, my grandparents' names on both sides, and all of our birthdays. I've tried every name and number remotely related to my family. I've even tried stuff like love you Kaveh, take care, and yours truly. I've tried every cheesy phrase and well-wish in the book, but this lock has refused to budge. I wouldn't try that route again. I have a hunch that it won't be that simple. Also, if she really did use something like that, she'd never hear the end of it from the folks over at Haravatat if they ever found out.
Naja, lass uns das doch erstmal ein bisschen beiseite legen und was anderes machen.
Yeah, you're right. Although I was hoping to find some words of wisdom from my mother, if I stop and think about it, her words may not be the advice that I need to hear right at this moment. Everyone's life journey is different. Traveler, you've visited many lands and met many people, so I'm sure you've run into situations where some advice wasn't exactly suitable for the situation at hand.
Naja, da müssen wir jetzt aber weit zurückdenken. Ja, vielleicht mal.
Ah, I just got an idea though. If I want to rekindle the creative passion that I had before, instead of trying to unlock an old notebook, why don't I take a walk around the parts of town that had changed my life?
Oh ja, was sind das
What
für
do you
welche?
think?
Klingt
I'm glad you
hervorragend.
agree. Then let's start by taking a quick stroll around the academia.
Oh, echt? Ich habe jetzt gedacht, dass wir dann irgendwie rausgehen, raus aus dem Meer. Okay, wir gehen zur Akademie, ich sag schon nichts.
Of all the places in the academia, I remember this one most. When my studies got busy, I used to pull all-nighters here trying to finish my blueprints.
Es hört sich so an, als würdest du es vermissen.
Who doesn't miss their time at the academia? Life was a lot simpler then, and we all had far less troubles. I created many designs that I thought were beautiful in the House of Dana. I drew whatever came to mind, since I didn't have to care about budget constraints or turning them into reality.
Na, kommst du dann trotzdem so gern hier? Es gibt doch etliche Orte.
If I had to give a reason, it'd probably be because I like the ambiance here.
Oh,
The
ja?
academia also had a rule that allowed scholars to annotate any physical books they came across. As a result, the books here are chock full of scholars' wisdom across many generations.
Ah, ja. So, hast du auch was reingeschrieben? Hast du auch jemand deine Weisheit hinterlassen?
Oh, here, this is a great example. This book, History of Ancient Sumeru Architecture, contains some analysis that I did many years ago. Huh? Why is Alhatham's handwriting also in here? When did he ever read this book? I guess it's probably from when we worked on that research project together. Anyway, he probably never cared to tell you this, but the House of Dana is where Alhatham and I first met. I came here to do my homework, and saw him sitting by himself next to that row of bookshelves. A group of Haravatat scholars were chatting near him, but he looked as if he was too lazy to join them. There was a pretty stark difference between him and all the rest of them. It was my fault for feeling bad for him. I thought he must have gotten into some kind of trouble and went over to ask if he needed anything, not realizing that...
Not realizing that you were in fact the one in a whole heap of trouble?
Wo kommt der jetzt her? Oh Gott.
Alhatham? Why are you here?
Ja, aber ganz ehrlich, ich habe mich schon gefragt, wann er auftaucht. Ich war mir so sicher, irgendwann kommt Alhatham. Ich hätte es gewundert, wenn nicht. Ich hätte es wirklich gewundert. Aber ja, da ist er ja, ne?
The House of Dana is a public space. Anyone can come here, no?
Ja.
But shouldn't you be at the records room at this hour? You're not here to watch me make a fool of myself, are you?
Ach, okay. Er ist vielleicht jetzt, er versteht euch jetzt nicht gut, aber so gemein ist er jetzt nicht. Also, glaube ich.
You think I would derive amusement from watching you fall into depression over your life's various troubles? If that's the case, then I suppose I must have been entertaining myself for years. I came here to pick up a few files. If your voice hadn't managed to get through my soundproof earpieces, I probably wouldn't have noticed you.
Oh mein Gott.
All right. I admit I was probably overreacting just now.
Okay, dann erzähl weiter, bitte.
Probably not when he's right here with us. As his senior, I shouldn't try to tarnish his reputation.
Ach, echt, ist der älter als... Dachte, wir wären gleich alt. Ist Kaveh echt älter als Alhatham? Oh, ich hab gedacht, die wären gleich alt oder so.
There was nothing embarrassing or shameful about it. When I was still a student at the academia, I once collaborated with Kaveh on a research project. A collaboration is usually beneficial for all parties, but due to issues with our personalities, we ended up going our separate ways before completing the project.
Super Ding.
We had a number of differences, and they remain unresolved even today. But there's no point going into that right now.
Nee.
The more important question is, why are you at the House of Dana?
Naja, Kaveh ist gerade ein bisschen...
As a senior scholar, isn't it my responsibility to offer my friend a quick tour and explanation of the academia's architecture?
Ach, komm schon. Im Ernst jetzt?
I see. Then let me guess. Your next stop will be the pavilions around Razan Garden? Our famed architect sure loves showing off that corner to all his friends. Oh, and Kaveh, a lot of the books you annotated have been moved to the innermost section of that bookshelf over there. You'll have to dig them out yourself if you need to find them.
Ach nee.
Huh? But why would you know that? Don't tell me you finally had an epiphany and realized that there's great virtue in respecting your elders' work.
Nee, ich glaube bei dir nicht.
Sure, if that will give you some self-confidence.
Geil.
Leave any words of thanks you may have to the ex-Grand Conservator. The last time he was here, he was complaining that he had received reports from current students. The main grievance being that the annotations are too long and difficult to read. As a result, the books you annotated have been moved to the back shelves.
Oh my Gott.
What? But all of my annotations were extremely important. Instead of reporting me, they should have been thanking me for my service. The notes that I took, they couldn't have asked for a better analysis of those books. Okay, just you wait. I'm going to fix this right now. I'll dig all the books out and return them to the proper shelves.
Ach, nein.
Oh, we'll wait.
Warum ist das denn? Na, sorry. Ich denke mal, uns bleibt jetzt nichts anderes übrig, als es hier zu warten.
Anyway, you were about to say he's feeling a bit down?
Naja, er wurde kürzlich gerade wieder mit einem besonders schwierigen Auftraggeber ein bisschen gequält.
Put through the ringer. What an interesting phrase. I assume he used those exact words himself?
Ist das nicht so?
He probably did suffer quite a bit, that's true. He always spends a lot of time editing his proposals, with the goal of satisfying as many of the client's preferences as possible. But the satisfaction of one client will not translate to general satisfaction with his work. Many problems in life can only be solved by a fundamental change of attitude. As the leading genius of Ksharawar, Kaveh should have both the right and the confidence to reject any unreasonable demands. There are plenty of architects in Sumeru who are inferior to him in skill, yet far more irascible in temperament. What's more, there are plenty of people who look up to such individuals as paragons of staying true to one's principles. Clearly, his predicament is inevitable, since he holds other people's feelings as more important than his own. Of course, each person is different, and we should respect the paths that they have chosen for themselves. Admonitions will serve no purpose. People tend to succumb to familiar pitfalls, and this is especially true for those who believe it's their duty to carry more burdens on their shoulders.
Das heißt so hin? Ach, Kaveh.
Looks like you were having an enjoyable chat while I was gone. Were you talking about me by any chance?
Vielleicht?
What do you think?
What else is there to talk about? Surely no one would be interested in talking about the files that you were browsing through earlier. Anyway, you should take a look at this. Look at this comment on page 82. Dear Kaveh, thank you so much for annotating this book in such detail. It was a great help to me.
Ja, schau mal. Ist doch gut, was du gemacht hast.
See that? Now that's how a student should treat their seniors.
And it looks like you're already in a much better mood now. It really doesn't take much to make you happy, huh?
Das ist doch auch nichts Schlechtes, oder?
Me happy? I'm mocking that retired blockhead for being so full of himself. He understands nothing about the true beauty of architecture. When I can find some time, I'll have a serious talk with him about making sure these books are put where they belong.
Why don't you just move all the books yourself? It's not like he hasn't cursed you out before. What was that nickname he gave you while you were in the academia? The Urchin of Ksharawar?
What? Was? Warum das denn?
Kaveh had a habit of scribbling and writing in all kinds of books.
Ah.
Hey! You didn't need to bring that up. At least not when I'm still standing here. Oh, actually, I also found a really old sketch in one of the books over there. See? Doesn't it remind you of something?
Eine Bogenbrücke?
Huh? Don't tell me even you don't get it.
Don't ask me. This is the time you specifically put aside to brag about yourself. Feel free to hoard all the spotlight you want.
You? In that case, allow me to explain. Although this sketch is a little abstract, you can plainly see from the road plans that this was an original concept for the expansion of Port Ormos.
We can also plainly see that the designer was a huge fan of this project. It's the project he loves to talk about the most, second to the Palace of Alcazarzaray.
Stimmt, der hatte ja so ein bisschen Leuchtturm zum Beispiel hat er saniert und so ein bisschen was gemacht. Ja, er ist vielleicht gerade mal Anfang, Ende 20, würde ich sagen. Aber er hat schon viel gemacht. Also, vielleicht ist er Anfang 30 maximal.
If I don't keep bringing up the neat projects that I've done, how would anyone know that I was the one who did them in the first place? There shouldn't be any complaints about Port Ormos. If I remember correctly, the construction process was very smooth, everything was made ready ahead of time, and there were very few safety concerns.
There are indeed no records of any complaints about this project. A most impressive achievement.
See? What did I tell you? Come on, let's take a stroll through Port Ormos next. I'll tell you all about the designs I made for the place.
Kannst du bitte helfen?
No need. It's almost time to clock out for the day, and I don't intend on bringing any unfinished work home.
Achso.
Suit yourself. It's not like you know how to appreciate artistry anyway. Let's go, traveler.
Ja, ist
I'll
klar.
take you to Port Ormos.
Ja, stimmt. Helfen macht immer pünktlich Feierabend. Und das ist einfach so... Mann, er ist so deutsch. Das ist teilweise unglaublich. Aber gut. Dann schauen wir uns eben alleine an, was Kaveh so wundervolle Sachen vollbracht hat.
Too slow.
Port Ormos.
Was wurde denn von dir entworfen hier?
No, I didn't design any one specific building. Most of my work here concerned structural renovation.
Ah.
Port Ormos had already existed since I was still a young child. It wasn't as large as it is now, though. It only came to its current size after a sizable expansion. I was part of that project. The arch bridge over there, for example. That was one of my designs.
Sieht aber wirklich hübsch aus. Wie kamst du denn auf die Idee dazu?
When
Erzähl
I
mal.
was first tasked with the project, I decided to reference the growth patterns of nearby trees to split Port Ormos into 2 levels. My goal was to improve the overall utilization of space. We ran into a lot of issues during construction, but thankfully, we were still able to achieve the original vision. Residents can now behold all the ships entering and leaving the harbor from the vantage point of the bridge, while visitors can recognize the site of Port Ormos from a long ways away. I was still young and new to the trade back then. I could hardly believe that an idea in my head could become reality and remain in the world for many years to come. The true cornerstone of the creative process. The point about the design that will be ultimately used to judge its true worth. It was the first time that it became crystal clear in my mind. Once built, a building will continue to stand. Countless people will see it, and countless more will step inside it. Its final worth, whether it's good or bad, will be assessed by the countless generations of people that interact with the building during their lives.
Sehr
You
beeindruckend,
think so?
Kaveh.
I'm glad to hear that. But even with this project, I still had one small regret.
Oh ja?
My budget was tight, and I was unable to use the higher quality timber I had originally intended for the design. I knew that some concessions on aesthetics would be needed as soon as I agreed to a proposal that prioritized the practical functions of the project. Us creative types know better than anyone that most projects cannot be completed without a few regrets. Even the Palace of Alcazarzaray was not perfect.
Bedauern selbst ist auch eine Hoffnung für die Zukunft, nicht?
Yeah,
Verstehen Satz aber
you're
nicht.
right. I should learn to look toward future opportunities and believe that any regrets I have can be overcome in time.
Ja, bestimmt.
We've spent long enough here. There's still one last place I want to go, but it's a little far. Would you be interested in a quick trip to the desert?
Ja, sicher.
Great. Most of my projects over the last few years have had something to do with the desert, partially because there's a special place there that I often visit. This is a rare opportunity, so why don't you come along and see it for yourself?
Ja. Wir schleppen uns das ganze
If
Land,
you ever feel
aber...
down, maybe you'll be able to go there and feel better too.
Aber wir gehen natürlich gerne mit, weil, naja, die bisschen teleportieren, das tut uns nicht weh. Wo bist du hin? Da. Oh! Dahin? Okay.
Who would have thought that so many primal constructs could have congregated here while I was gone? We won't be able to sit and talk peacefully with these guys around. Let's clear the area.
No, okay.
Come at me!
The wind rises.
Ach, ja, die sind hier immer da.
Bow your head. Behold.
Isn't this place great? I often come here to clear my mind when I'm dealing with a difficult situation. You know what I mean. Everyone finds themselves in frustrating situations once in a while. Just take me as an example. My family life got shaken up quite a bit when I was young. I struggled in school, and I got into a huge pile of debt building the Palace of Alcazarzaray. Although Alhaitham thinks that it's because of my personality that I continue to live in the shadow of the past, I think it's also just a part of life. Plus, if I look back, I've honestly had my fair share of good luck as well. You could probably say I've followed in the path of my mother. Like her, I've gained a name for myself as an architect, built something that's seen as my magnum opus, and found many projects that others have entrusted to me to finish.
Und deine Leidenschaft fürs Leben hast du auch nicht verloren, nicht wahr?
Life is too boring when you live with no enthusiasm and passion. Only those who believe in the inherent meaning of it can capture the small nuances of everyday life and turn them into inspiration for beautiful designs.
Ja.
Of course, I will concede that loving something also means taking it to heart. So to an extent, caring is also a source of pain. If I didn't love my work, I wouldn't be so torn up about it all the time. But still, isn't this place beautiful? Despite the erosion from the winds and changing seasons, you can still perceive its past beauty and glory. With different landforms come different architectural styles. The desert's history has left it with few records regarding its buildings, so I often visit the desert to investigate things in person. The sight here has moved me ever since the first time I laid my eyes on it. I told myself that one day, I would also be able to create buildings that move others. My pain will one day fade into nothing just as I reach the end of my life. But buildings are different. They are far more valuable than most materialistic things, and far more durable than human flesh. As long as there remain souls in the world who can decipher the meaning behind them, they will also have acknowledged me across the vast stream of time. If you were to ask me what art is, that would be my answer.
Ja, jetzt bist du schon wieder viel mehr der Kaveh, den ich kenne.
You think so? But I feel I've always been like this.
Ja, dafür warst du so, ich weiß nicht, so niedergeschlagen. Nicht Kaveh.
Remember that question I brought up before? The one about whether I should see art as a divine gift of inspiration from the gods, or as a product of my own existential struggle.
Oh, dann hast du dann hast du denn die Frage gestellt. Ups.
I still haven't found an answer to that yet. But if art wasn't inherently paradoxical and enigmatic, then people probably wouldn't be drawn to it. Those who pursue art will be unable to avoid the pain that it naturally brings. Will often be floating on cloud 9 one second and sinking in a mire the next. I'll try gathering my thoughts again once I've found a way to define art in the first place. In any case, thank you so much for listening to everything I had to say.
Ich bin sehr gut im Zuhören. Leider weniger gut im Reden. Ah. Wie schön. Unter den Sternen. Eines Tages, wenn mein Leben vorbeizieht, wird mein Leiden sicherlich spurlos verschwinden. Aber meine Werken werden für immer in der Welt bleiben. Ja, bei dir schon, Kaveh. Wenn ich einmal weg bin, erinnert sich niemand mehr an mich. Ja. Ja, vielleicht ist es auch besser so. Ach, wie schön noch das alles ist. Stimmt, hier kann man ja, weil hat der Kaveh auch schon, Kaveh auch schon eine Rolle gespielt. Ach, das ist so schön, Mann. Ich liebe diese Einladungsereignisse. Das ist einfach immer so nostalgisch. Und halt, das wollte ich gar nicht. Man lernt irgendwie alles mögliche über die Charaktere. Aus den verschiedensten Seiten. Es fehlen uns nur noch Farusan. Oh, da fehlen uns sogar noch 3 Ausgänge. Echt jetzt? Oh Gott, der Biss wird jetzt fertig haben. Ich weiß es nicht. Naja, egal. Für heute soll es das aber gewesen sein. Gut, wir sehen uns dann beim nächsten Mal wieder, aber noch immer dasselbe. Tschüssi.